Hello and welcome to Self Talk. I'm your host, Rachel Astarte. Today, I am so excited to have as my guest, Maryjane Fahey. She is on her fifth reinvention, but who's counting, as founder of Glorious Broads, the epicenter of confident, unconventional broads over 50. She cut her teeth in print, art directing, and rebranding magazines. And then she rode the internet tsunami, writing for Bustle, TZR, Huffington Post, AARP, and she published a book called Dumped. Glorious Broads is now her focus and her love child, developing a sexy GBTV series. What she says about it is, I want to inspire women to say, I want to be that broad, and see fear-mongering about age become a thing of the past, and in my lifetime, let roaring into age prevail. I love that. Amen. A woman, however you want to say it. Thank you, Maryjane, so much for being on Self Talk.
Oh, you're welcome. Happy to be here.
Yeah, beautiful. So you have a storied past that brought you to where you are. Could you let the listeners know a little bit of how you got to Glorious Broads? What was going on in your, not just your professional life, but what were you seeing that made you want to create Glorious Broads?
Sure. I will try to summarize this quickly and funnily. I was brought up in a matriarchal household.
Nice.
5 women and a granny, a dad and a brother who were kind of ignored, and the women ruled. And what I saw as a young girl is, though my mother had the power, as she aged, she lost that power. She gave it to the kids. She wanted us to have careers, but she became lost later in life. And my grandmother was fabulous, but she too was a traditional grandmother. So I have always been attracted to unconventional, fierce women. And I was attracted to start Glorious Broads by an obituary, oddly enough, of a woman named Clara Cox. I may be messing up that last name, but she had been a columnist for W. And it was just a picture. She was 90 years old. She had just died on a motorcycle, became a lesbian that year, wrote a book about her fabulous sex life. And it was just like, this is what I want to be. And so that was the inspiration. And here I am. Now I can't walk out my door living in New York City without meeting another glorious broad. But it's not just New York City, they're everywhere. It may take a little pushing to get them to be fully glorious, but it's my mission.
Yeah, I love that. And the inspiration coming from an elder woman, even more so,
Yes.
even though it was somebody that you never even met. So that kind of
Yes.
shows how powerful we can be without even having to know someone specifically.
Yeah, it's true. I mean, I love my mom, but I saw her power deplete. And I wondered why as a kid. Anyway, so
Did you ever find out? Did you ever talk to her about it?
As a kid, she's no longer with us, but you lose those opportunities because she was truly lost later in life. I just mean, she cared more about her looks. We all care about her looks, but she got very bad surgery later in life and just got her values became confused.
Yeah. Right. Yeah. So one of the main topic I think that we wanted to talk about today, you already touched on, which is sensuality as we get older, over 50, over 60, over 70, 80, right? My mother's 84.
And she's living?
Oh, yeah. Not only is she living, hang on a second. She directs plays. She writes for Audiophile magazine. She's very, very she's more active than I am, to be honest. So
Wow.
yeah,
Now
and
that's a
she's
living,
amazing.
breathing inspiration for you. Fabulous.
100%, a hundred
Got a couple
percent.
of boyfriends or girlfriends or whatever in her life?
You know what? You'll love this. She's like, I'm done. I'm done with that.
Yes.
Like
And
I'm
I dig that
focusing
too.
on me now. I'm
Yes.
focusing on me. But she did when she was in her 50s, 60s. Yeah, she was boyfriends all through my 20s and 30s. And they were lovely men, they were great people to have around. But she's very discerning, bless her. So,
Yes.
as
Yes.
well she should be.
Yes. Yes. Yes.
Yeah. So as we talk about this, and you interview these women, and by the way, I of course we're going to have your Instagram handle, which is at Glorious Broads. Go to the Instagram page, listeners, because it is incredibly inspiring, and that's how I found you. And so you're meeting these women and you're talking with them, and you've listened to so many stories about
Yes.
women's sensuality, sexuality as they get older. What, in your experience, do you think we as women in midlife need to know about our sexuality, our sensuality as we get older?
Well, I think the common theme is that as we get older, we know ourselves more. We can demand more. I don't mean, but being clear with your lovers, whoever they may be, this is what I need in order to have an orgasm, in order for us both to have a pleasurable experience. I know when I was a young girl, I was more into the performance. I was a fabulous performer,
Right.
but I don't know how much I really, really enjoyed it because it was more about, getting a notch on my belt.
Right.
And the higher, the better. Kind of ridiculous. So I think it's like knowing yourself more, requesting more, or needing more, or saying it. And I think that is the major thing that I found. And also, I really respect that need or that demand for pleasure in our life. It may not be just sexual. You may just say, I've had it. But most of the women want it. Some of the women are willing to wait for the right cookie to come around, but a lot of them just go out and pick at a room. There's that confidence that you can get. Now, I'm not saying everyone, but a lot of older women can get. It's an irreplaceable thing when you really feel like, baby, I deserve this. So
Yeah.
that is what I think I have seen. That's what I've seen in common.
Yeah. And well, there's a lot to piece apart there. That being able to know what you want is really important. I mean, at any age, but yeah, there's a point when we reach, I would say 50-ish, where
Yes.
we're just, 40s, you're stepping into, okay, I'm in midlife now. Let's see what happens, right? But
Yes.
by the time you're 50, you're like, okay, like game's over. This is
Yes.
what's important to me, and this is my limited time on earth, and I'm going to enjoy the hell out of it.
Yes.
Um,
Yes.
so yeah, so there's that aspect. Um, but you touched on something that I was just talking with my girlfriend about before we got on this call, that there's a sense of sometimes I can't be bothered. I just don't even want to
Yes.
deal with this anymore.
Yes. And you have your vibrator for that.
Right, right, exactly. Or it might even be, I'm not sure sexuality is in my realm anymore. But what
Yes.
you had said, it isn't always just about sex.
No.
So what else is there? And we'll get back to the sex part because that's important. But what else is there when we say sensuality? If you're not interested in masturbation, you're not self-pleasuring, you're not interested in having a partner, you're not interested in the sex part of your life, that doesn't necessarily mean your life is over, right?
Oh
So
my God, no,
yeah.
absolutely. I think of my neighbor. She's not a friend of mine, but I think of Fran Lebowitz, who lives down the block. I've only seen her in, passing by, but she is so funny. And I read a very funny interview about her life. Her life is doing whatever the fuck she wants to do. Her life is getting the best cup of espresso, nursing that cup, writing in a journal for 3 hours. I guess she doesn't need to make a living anymore. just pursuing the best lectures that she wants to, only seeing friends she really know. What you had said before of recognizing that there's a limit to our life, that's a big thing at 50 or
Yeah.
60, whenever it hits. And just say, oh, I'm going to get every ounce of pleasure I can get out of this.
Yeah.
One of my besties is an 84-year-old. She's been off sex since she's been 40, but she is such an inspiration to me how she lives her life. She loves music. She goes to the concert all the time. She is always with people, usually women. She is heterosexual if she gave a shit. She is such an inspiration to me for being involved in life. And that is a pleasure, a necessity that works for me.
Yeah, beautiful.
Or it can be not to keep talking about myself, but to recognize, that there is just a certain amount of time. You have been an art director or whatever you have been for a certain amount of time, and just, you know what, I think I can write, and you start writing instead of just thinking maybe I should. It's just like jumping on that. And while that's difficult, it's also an intense pleasure, and in a way a sensuality.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, think of all the senses that are involved when you're writing.
Absolutely.
Especially if you're writing by hand, which I prefer to do myself, because there's that tactile, that thing. Well, I'm a longtime journal writer, keeper,
Oh, yes,
and
yes, yes.
so there's something about the pen in my hand and that thing and the feel of the movement of the words. And yeah, that's just, I'm old school, but
Yeah. Yeah. Well, I write in my journal longhand too. That's funny. But here's a great example too, is I do have a partner at this time, and he wanted to surprise me by popping by. He lives in the East Village. I'm in the West Village. It will always be like that.
and so it shall be.
And he popped by last night, and I love seeing him. He wanted to show off something that he had done to his done with himself. And I was just like, gee, I really wanted to have this night to myself. The pleasure of having a night to myself, the pleasure of not needing to be out all of the time. That's the way I ran my 20s and 30s. It was funny. I decided to be welcoming to him, but it was really like, oh, really? So it's really knowing what you want at this point, and that is a pleasurable and sensual thing in your life.
Yeah, yeah. And unashamedly, that's the big
No,
thing, right? So it's like this, there's no guilt attached to it. And we
no,
get much better at expressing ourselves in a loving way. We don't have to be a bitch about like, I wanted to be alone tonight, right? That's not necessary.
no,
You
not
can
at this
say,
point. It would have been when I was younger, but now it's just
right.
like, right, he really wants to show me. He just had his teeth done. He wants to show me off his new. So okay, but we have a night.
Yeah, there you go. But yeah, so I think just for the listeners who are, and I've moved through this period myself of, wow, postmenopausal, and like, I stopped menstruating at 49. So I was a little earlier than a lot of people. And
Yes,
so, and I didn't lose my interest, but some things happened in my life and other things happened and I got distracted. But then when I looked back at sexuality, I was like, that is not on the top of my list at the moment. And
yes,
so, yes, what you said, 100%, filling in, like, where else am I getting my sensuality? Where else, whether that is walking around barefoot outside, or taking a bath or
yes,
doing whatever it is, the writing.
yeah.
Beautiful. Being in your body is so important.
Yes, being in your body and really listening to it. I'd like to talk about menopause for a moment.
Yeah,
I got
please.
it at 50, I guess around 55. And they took some fibroids and they decided to take all of it out. No discussion beforehand.
Wow.
So suddenly I'm in deep menopause, and vagina dryness set in. And I decided to break up with the man I was with, and I so enjoyed having 4 years off, maybe 3, from sex. It was just like time for myself. That's when I decided to start writing more. It was a time just for me. Then though, the not having any sex in my life is like, I'm missing. It's time to jump out of this desert.
Yeah.
And I was able to get on low estrogen hormones. And oh man, that did bring me back to life.
Yeah.
But I really want to say that, respect those years if you need to go off it. And when you come back to it, you are more sexy than ever. You feel it, whoever you're interested in. I also opened up my life at that time. It was very opening up to a woman in my life. That is how I came back. I was just much more open after menopause was over.
Yeah. There's a lot to be said about that too. And I found that myself is like, oh, wow, like more doors open up.
Yes.
Not just within you, but like in terms of potential and possibility. And again, that ticking clock thing actually becomes not so scary after a while. It becomes an adventure. And at least it did for me. So yeah. So let's talk about society for a second. Let's talk about society's view of elder sensuality, elder sexuality, and especially with regard to women, and how it affects us collectively.
Yes.
Yeah.
Well, I have, here's my take. I have very little patience with this whole invisible chat. I think if you have decided you're visible, you're going to be visible. But the way society looks at aging and women, I take pride in how I look, and it's so important to be healthy in life, especially as you age, and as you remain healthy, you tend to be more sexual, more vibrant, more sensual. If people may, and they have made a judgment on me, I tend to laugh at it. And I do think that our age group is changing. We seem to be trending out there with the Golden Bachelor and all that. I think it's great. When I went back online after my walking away from sexuality for a couple of years, no idea we were so hot. It was like, I think I was on Tinder and they were all over me for being a 55-year-old sexual being. But there have been times when I post something. I used to do this a couple of years ago. I was doing a little modeling and I would post something in a lingerie. And there were some, really mean comments, but I thought, that's your problem, darling, not mine. And I also like to remind people who are getting mean, you're going to be here someday, baby.
That's right.
You better get comfortable with it. So that is my take. I think it all has to be coming from us, what we project, rather than giving speeches. It's really about, this is the way I live. This can be how you project being 50, 60, 70. Join me if you care to.
Exactly. And remember, and I say this all the time, a community is only as healthy as the individuals that comprise it. So if you're going to do that inner work and do what you need to do to get yourself right with yourself and celebrate who you are at whatever age you are. But women our age who are, in midlife are don't even realize the power that they have, because getting back to society, the messages that we have been told traditionally, it's that you are fading out. It's like your fertility is gone, your looks are going, whatever that means. Your looks are changing, but and that's something else that we might want to touch on a little bit, is getting used to the changes in our face, in our bodies. So here we are, hot little mamas in our 20s and 30s and even into our 40s, fucking like bunnies. And then slowly we're starting to notice things changing, not just not just the physical, the wrinkles and the sagging and the things aren't working the way that they used to work, and sometimes vaginal dryness or even vaginal atrophy. But like I developed a back issue that affected my legs, which affected my sexuality. And so understanding that we are shifting and changing, do you have any thoughts or advice about how to embrace the shifts that we go through?
Yes, I do. I used to be a workout bunny. I was at the gym all of the time, and I still go to the gym, or that would be foolish. But there is someone I follow, and I'm not pushing her, but she's kind of amazing. Her name is Yamana, and she taught me more about working out slowly as you age, breathing slowly, stretching more as we age. I heard Jane Fonda the other day talking about she's 85 now. And she is so happy that she did remain strong in her younger life because she's able to cope a little better with getting older. It's going to be a bitch. We know that in terms of our bodies changing. I mean, in terms of the physical changes. So I think that we can't push ourselves as much as we did and change it as our bodies changed. Right. I hear some young women, middle-aged women, talk about, oh, it's menopause and your stomach is going to explode and you're going to be. But in fact, there's a lot of things you can do, and it can be riding on your bike rather than pushing a spin class. You ride on your bike more. Yeah. So it's just embracing working out slower, working out consistently, whether it's yoga, whether it's Pilates. I do Pilates. It helps your core. I can't say enough how important that is. I too have a back issue. The Pilates helps. It's just, I think it's also recognizing, not running away from it, recognizing it, and how can we fix it as we age?
Yeah. And the gentleness, right?
Yes.
Not even just gentleness with your body, but gentleness with the way we talk to ourselves about our bodies.
Yes. And that's why, yes, I mentioned Yamana because she taught me about breathing. She taught me about stretch. I work with her balls, and I feel longer as I get older. I mean, rather than this, there's too much acceptance of, well, I'm old, I'm going to get shorter.
Right.
No, that doesn't have to be.
Yeah.
And each decade, I used to hold on to, maybe it was a 2 years ago that I let go of a picture on my refrigerator of me rocking it at 30 in a bikini. Let go of that picture. And I'm going to be the best I can at this decade. And that's a different mindset.
Yeah, absolutely. And that says a lot right there, is because this happened for me as well. As I got into, I guess I was about 52, and I was looking back at what I was doing 20 years earlier, and I was rocking it in my 30s. And I thought, there is a part of me that's still that vibrant person.
Yes.
But now there's wisdom attached to it. And so that even is, so the idea of looking back at our past and saying, oh, I long for those happy, happy days, right? But think of what you're bringing now. You're still that woman.
Yes.
With so much more.
Yes.
Right.
Yes.
To settle into, because if I had the chance to go back and be 32 again, I don't actually think I would, because I was not as smart as I am now.
Yes. And every woman that I talk to on the street says that. I would never be that young woman again. I want to be here, and some of them are funny. So I like to look like that, but I want this brain. When I see Paulina, the gorgeous,
Paulina Porchikova,
yes, and she talks, and she has this body of a 20-year-old. Good for her, but she does not represent me. And good for her. I understand there's all kinds of different 50s, but it's important that we not put that pressure on ourselves.
Yes.
Christ, that's another kind of creature.
Right. And it's funny that you mention her, because that was actually what started me focusing on working with women in midlife, because there was
Yeah.
a couple of articles that came out where she's still rocking a bikini at 56. And I said, is that the bar? Is that
Yes.
really the bar? Because if so, how sad is that? We have
Yes.
so much more to offer the world than whether or not we still look good in a bikini.
Absolutely. Yes, yes, yes. And back to sensualness.
Yeah.
I'm going to spill the beans, but he'll never watch it. My partner right now is having some difficulty with his apparatus.
Mm-hmm.
And so we're very sensual, very sexual, but oh, this is new. So it's made our sex a little softer and a
Mm-hmm.
little different, but that's just, oh, welcome to your 70s. It
Yeah.
doesn't have to be, but just being aware of that and kinder to yourself and to them.
Yeah, absolutely. Because and I used to teach sexuality a long time ago, and that was one of the things that I would tell to young partners too. It's not about this. It's not about. I'm sorry for those who are listening. I'm
Oh,
making the rude gesture of intercourse. Um, it's not about insert tab A and slot B. That's not always what this is about, and there's so much more to intimacy than that. So, and that was part of what we talked about, was that as you get older, you will understand that better start practicing it now, different
yes.
kinds of intimacy and sensuality, than waiting until things are not working the way you're used to. So I
Yeah.
love that. And women have this as well, with the vaginal dryness and the
Sure.
embarrassment and this and that. I said, just keep some coconut oil by the bed and call it a day. You know what I mean?
Absolutely.
Slap it
Absolutely.
on.
And fortunately, this person is pretty cool about it because sometimes it works. And now we say, oh, it's sleeping.
Nice.
It's sleeping. But this is new to me. I'm used to a rammer, but
Yeah,
there
yeah.
you go.
Right. And then there's so much more that you can investigate and play with, it just, yeah. And I think that's also very expansive. So nothing, absolutely no shame there. So again, just with the society part, and it is so hard to shake the patterning that we are embedded with from the moment that we're born, as women. Um, what what are some things that you would advise women to do to counteract this, like, really widely spread viewpoint of women losing their purpose after 40, or not being as vital to society? I mean, we all know it's bullshit, but it's ingrained, and whether we want it, we aren't constantly surrounded by our sisters reminding us that
Oh,
you're powerful. So when we're out in the world dealing with that, what are some ways we can overcome the message?
well, I am going to say I'm clearly a Jane Fonda fan. And I've just recently been obsessed with this podcast called Call Me Daddy.
Okay.
And look at it and look into it. It's run by a 28-year-old who calls herself Daddy. And she's fabulous. She had an interview with Jane, and Jane said it was the best interview she ever had. And she asked, Daddy asked Jane, what do you have to say about all of the expectations and aging? We're all scared shit. And Jane said, and I think it's helped me, talk to each other, even if it's a Zoom call. Talk to each other and power up each other, not fake power up, get it out.
Yeah.
And when you see that there are all of you going through this, and
Mm-hmm.
when you see the commonality of the problem, I think it will help you go out into the world with a different mindset. Not to push glorious broads, but I think the young women, and there are young women following us
Mm-hmm.
that are saying, oh, you're making me less afraid. Yeah. And I think that's so important to have each other, even if
Mm-hmm.
it's another website, even if it's a podcast like what you have, even if it's a drink with girls regularly. I
Yeah.
mean, girls that have soul, not bullshit.
Yeah. Yeah, absolutely. And yeah, exactly right. And And that is it right there. And also Glorious Broads, the fact that you have young women following you in a way is half the point. It's,
Absolutely.
you
It
know,
is.
because you need to see what your future could be if you
Yes.
choose it, right? You
Yes.
could choose to
Yes.
fall down the rabbit hole of feeling crappy about yourself, or
Yes.
you can step up and into your power and into your light, which is not woo-woo words. I mean that like we
No.
are vibrant beings, right?
Yes.
And
Yes.
so, and we didn't have that
No,
necessarily
we didn't.
growing up,
We didn't. We
right?
didn't. Yes. I just had that conversation with my partner over breakfast when he was saying, well, I was talking to a very interesting dinner I had the other night. It was called the Lioness Dinner. Very cool girls in their 20s. And I'm looking for a friend in their 20s because of Daddy. Daddy
Mhm.
has inspired me to have a powerful 20-year-old. And I have different ages in my group and in my friends. I think that's really important to
Yes.
keep in. And the young kids tend to think, oh, who do I look to? I don't have it. And here we are here. We are
Mhm.
here to tell you what it's like.
Yeah.
Um, go to us, ask us things. I mean, the wise ones. And I'm asking for the really, really wise and elders. My new best friend is 84 and 100. And
Yes.
they're out there. They're rare, but they
Mhm.
are out there.
Yes, absolutely. And so I think that is a great message. Wide range of
Yes.
awesome women in
Yes.
your group of people that you connect with, but also knowing, yeah, in this phase of life, knowing that we have other women in midlife to talk to. But yeah, go get yourself some elders. In my community, I have a community called the Awaken Women Mentors community. And
Ah,
the whole purpose of this is to bring women in midlife together. And I just posted yesterday an assignment for all of us, which I called Adopt an Elder, which is
oh,
go find a woman older than you and follow her on social media or learn about her. So my choice was Patti Smith. I've always loved her, and so she's my Jane Fonda. You know what I
oh,
mean?
the rocker,
Yeah,
Patty.
yeah,
Oh, I love her.
yeah.
Look at
She's
her
phenomenal.
stage. She's
Huh?
fantastic.
Yeah, she's
She's
turning
just great.
77 in December, and I've been following her for years, but um but she is the one that I'm learning from. So just getting
Yeah.
into the practice of listening to our elders as well, even when we start to feel old, right? To know
Yes.
we haven't even stepped into elderhood yet.
Yes.
Let's learn from our wise older women as well. Yeah.
Yes. Yes.
So beautiful. So community is important.
I think so.
Getting your
Yeah.
own shit together is important.
Yes.
Yeah,
Yes.
find your
Yes.
people. Beautiful.
Uh, originally when I start Glorious Broad, I was all into the elders, and of course, I still am. But I like being in the stage I'm in right now. I have befriended uh, this 84-year-old who is really my buddy. She's my martini buddy.
Yeah, yeah.
And this 100-year-old does tend to be on a pedestal for me. She's a
Mhm.
100-year-old and she still dances. So I find that I'm doing less of my 84-year-old friend. I'm saying my friend.
Mhm.
I'm doing
Yeah.
I'm doing less of, oh, my Black friend, and just saying my friend.
Mhm.
It's a very important change for me that we're just powerful women together. It's pretty.
Beautiful.
Yeah,
Yeah.
I love the Patti Smith. I just heard, I'm going to do a little leap here, but I heard
Yeah.
Martha Stewart on, she was being interviewed by Kara Swisher, who I love.
Mhm. Mhm.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And Martha was, I've always had my issues with, I don't care about the housing and perfectionists, but you know what? That is a powerhouse.
Oh,
She
yes.
was something else. Her curiosity, that's a big thing about getting older, whether it's
Mm.
sensuality, whether it's work, whether it's life, whether it's politics, that curiosity, that will keep you
Mm.
kicking.
Yeah.
She,
Yeah. Always wanting to learn more. And
yeah,
I'm not done yet, right?
I'm,
That whole
I'm
thing.
absolutely.
Beautiful. Speaking of curiosity, how do you find the women that you interview on Glorious Broads on social media?
Yeah. Well, I have two different avenues. On the website, I have my special girls. Those are the ones that I can't resist doing a, 2,000 word piece on. But I found that not enough people were looking at the websites. I think websites are kind of over.
Mhm.
But on Instagram, I like finding them on the streets, and that's
Yeah.
pure guts. I do it with two young interns that I work with, and they're bull. And it's like, that looks like somebody, that looks like, and I would say 90% of the time, they're pretty freaking fabulous.
Mhm.
Um, and now I'm cheating a little bit because if I meet someone and they're not available and it's getting a little chilly, I will make a meeting with them in advance, and they're always through somebody. I actually am going to start a nomination campaign on my Instagram. If you know somebody that's fucking fabulous, bring it on. I had it on the website, but that's what I mean. Websites, it's too clunky.
Yeah, yeah.
Now, Instagram is great. DM me.
Mhm.
So I like going through people, and also that's how I know I keep the diversity right, whether
Right.
it's race, whether it's age, whether it's gender, whether it's whatever. It's really important to me that we not be silver-haired models.
Yeah, I love it. Okay, beautiful. So, Maryjane Fahey, thank you so much for being here. I could talk to you all day, but we do have
Ah,
to wrap up the show.
yes.
And I will have your information in the show notes, but it's if you're on Instagram at Glorious Broads, pretty easy to find.
Okay.
Facebook
TikTok
as
too.
well.
Yeah, Facebook, I'm just getting going on. We're just really starting but we're very much on TikTok too.
Oh, and on TikTok. Okay,
Yes.
beautiful. And YouTube, it's glorious.broads. But I'll have all this in the show notes. Thank you so much for joining us today. This has been inspiring, and I encourage everybody who is in midlife listening to this, all the women, to go out and find yourself some girls, find some sisters.
And pleasure up, girls.
Yes, that too. Thank
Have
you.
a good day. I love this.